Hi, and welcome to this episode of That Show on the Weekend. Here to talk about a weekly analysis of all things tech news and a few unrelated tech issues. But not this week. We're strictly on topic this week. No shenanigans.
Yeah, you say that.
I say that every time.
Not every time.
Alright. See you after the bump. And thanks for sticking around. Is the FBI backs off Apple for this whole trying to break into the phone thing? Apparently, the FBI found someone who can do it for them, and they want to test it before they wipe out this phone. But it's nice to see the FBI backing off, but when they finally brick the phone, they will come complaining to Apple. Apple, our phone broke.
Well, it's a little bit more important than that. Like, this is the first time that the FBI has attempted to force a company to give them access to something that they produced.
Yeah.
And part of this, the reason that they can do this, is that Apple's licensing agreement says that they own most of the stuff on your phone anyway. So while you physically own the phone, all the software and stuff is being licensed by Apple. So
Right.
they technically own everything on that phone because that's just how you agreed to the licensing agreement. So part of the reason why they were able to even step forth and say, hey, Apple, give us access to this phone is because most of the stuff they still hold the rights to. And it's the first time that that's actually a government agency has gone after a company to get them to do this thing because of their licensing says that they have the ability to do this. And they were like, no.
So for comparison, let's take the scenario. Should a citizen of the United States be able to build a room in their house that no one can penetrate?
Well, that's not even it. Like, if it's on your, if it's in your yard, that's yours. The only thing that can change that is eminent domain changes the ownership to the state.
Well, I mean, think about it. Like, even if there was no controversy about.
Well, so the other thing is this goes off of another federal court ruling that says you now need a search warrant to go through somebody's phone in an investigation. So part of that is like, okay, we couldn't really get the search warrant. So, okay, let's say we do have a search warrant. Can we just make the company that made the phone give us access to it? And the only way they could do that is if Apple intentionally puts a backdoor into the software, pushes it out so that the phone has to update it and get this backdoor.
Yeah. And as a result, all phones get the update that's compromised.
Right.
Thing, this could leak, you know.
Right. So the thing is, like, if you fit it, it's either all or nothing, and Apple didn't feel comfortable doing that. Which is good, because historically when courts and stuff are like, hey, we need these emails. They can go to Google. It's like, Google, yo, email us. And they're like, okay, done. This is the first time that a company says, we cannot do that. And they were 100% okay with that. Like, most other companies that are pressed with these things cave immediately.
Yeah.
And mostly because they didn't know that they had the option of saying no. So it's nice because now this means that companies can look towards consumer safety and consumer protection more than having to make sure that their company doesn't get shut down by the government for not complying. And that is momentously good for everyone involved except for the FBI.
Twitter turned 10.
I remember when Twitter first came around.
Twitter apparently is in jeopardy of freedom of speech issues. Trying to tailor. I think they got bought out by a media company, and then they've been quietly hiding dirty tweets. Well, they haven't really been deleting them. They just sort of mellow them out. Like they sort of have them come up less or something. I don't know.
Well, that's no different than how your Facebook feed works.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Twitter my whole stance with Twitter is for people that are somewhat actually interesting. And the problem is a lot of those people interesting enough to use Twitter don't use Twitter because they're off being interesting.
Yes. Most interesting man alive commercial. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of them.
Right, but you get a text message with the characters to express an ideal, and unless you're using like the almighty power of like haiku, you can't really accurately condense a
Yeah.
I haven't really spent a lot of time on
mean,
Twitter. I'm not really an expert on this.
You get like 180 characters SMS, right? No, it's 160. But you
It's
get
145.
Well, I guess it depends on which carrier you're using, too.
Whatever, it's a standard text message.
You get less space in Twitter than you do that.
Well, it's based off of the old cell phone standards. And then they're like, what if we just take that restriction out? And then you're like, this isn't even...
Yeah, well. More news about Apple. Their new phones continue to beat last-gen technology.
Right.
I guess there's really nothing new to say about that.
So, here's how you do... So, Apple and Debian. Here's a little comparison to go off with these. So, like, if you look at the Linux distribution Debian, what they do is, if they're going to release a stable version of Debian, they go through every piece of software and code in it, make sure it is 100% stable, and then they release it. That's why there's a new official stable Debian distribution every like 6 to 7 years. And by the time they like solidify it and like, okay, this is the most stable version of Debian we can put together, all of that shit's out of date. Now, Apple, on the other hand, goes and hand selects all of this hardware to run underneath to run their Mac OS X. And by the time they selected everything, it's out of date. It's always been out of date. But because they handcraft it and then put like hardware locking on it, like if you don't use our approved hardware, it won't run.
But it probably runs flawlessly.
Right. It's
kind of like a trade-off.
Right. It's the video game console of PCs. Like, we've selected these. These are the hardware. This won't change. All of these from this run will be this hardware.
In terms of reliability, or stability.
Right. And you pay more for the aesthetic and the stability than you would if you threw it together.
So overpriced. They're charging like an extra
$300
to go from 32 gigs of RAM to like 64. No, 8 to like 16 or something.
Right.
Window and Tech Syndicate did a great video about how
it's definitely overpriced for the hardware. And the other thing is, like, most people, when they think of Apple, is they can't separate the fact that the hardware and the software are separate, like it is on everything else. Because, again, it's the video game console of computers. You don't think, like, maybe I could throw a computer together, slap the operating system to the Xbox One version, there's an Xbox One. Because you can't really do that.
Mm-hmm.
But Hackintoshes are a thing.
Oh, yeah. No, you can upgrade an old Mac Pro to basically last another 5 years, potentially. An old series, so, yeah.
I mean, I've got my T60 that I got in 2006. I have run so many different versions of Windows. I got it because I was excited about the new version of Windows coming out at the time, which was Windows Vista. I was like, okay, I have to have a dual core in order to run the new version of Windows. I need to go upgrade my laptop. So I went and spent money and college money to make that happen, and then Windows Vista turned out to be just a
it's okay, you don't have to
heaving pile of garbage.
You don't have to say it. We all know.
Just the worst. And at the time, I was rocking a whole 2 gigs of RAM, which was the recommended.
Unless you had a high-end computer, you can't run Vista.
Well, okay, so the thing with Vista is before the first service pack, it actually did only need 2 gigs of RAM to run. What they didn't tell you is it needed 4 to start up. And that's where Vista's biggest downfall was. But after the first service pack, they scaled it back so it actually only needed 2, but by the time that happened, all the damage was done and nobody upgraded to Vista.
So you needed...
You needed 4 to start up
To
originally.
To boot it.
To boot it. And then 2 to stay running.
That doesn't... I mean... How... Well, I don't...
So what happened was it would immediately go, okay, we're booting up. I'm using up all of your physical memory. And then I'm going to fill up all of your virtual memory. And it's going to take about 5 minutes for Vista to start up. But once it starts up and running, it's so smooth. It's like I've got a car that like shakes violently until you hit 30 miles an hour. At that point, it's okay. But it also takes a while to get there.
I bet they put Vista. They buried that.
Well,
so fast.
so
They don't even want us to put it.
So here's what happened. Like, Vista was released, and Service Pack 1 of Vista was released, and it made it work. And the reason Vista even had any staying power was it was the first version of Windows to have a stable 64-bit release. Like, Windows XP has a 64-bit version of Windows XP.
No, it's not terrible.
It's not good.
No.
It's super bad.
Vista made 64-bit popular, I guess.
Right, and that's its big thing. Is 64-bit Vista ran so much better than 32-bit Vista that if you had a 32-bit machine, you stuck with XP. If you had a 64-bit machine, you went with Vista. Then when they announced Windows 7, everybody was like, oh, thank God. Thank God they decided not to continue down this road. Because 7 was announced and released almost a year after Vista.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Vista had such a short development, or such a short time in the spotlight. Because Windows 7 was all of the slimness of Windows XP, but it also had a 64-bit version, and ran beautifully. Still runs beautifully.
Yeah, they got the 32-bit, 64-bit cross-compatibility. Well, one-way.
Right. They fixed what was wrong, made it good. It runs on older hardware just as good
7
as
is what
XP.
they wanted Vista to be.
Right, but they didn't because they rushed it and it was garbage.
And that's why you don't rush things.
Right, they were just so excited to show everybody what they had, they forgot to make sure that it worked.
It's the unbridled enthusiasm of the software engineer.
Right,
Be like,
but
hey, it's like, can we have this thing maybe in 2 weeks? Oh yeah, we just got to do that. He
right.
died? Oh, that's okay. We'll replace him.
Well, okay, so the biggest comparison I have for Vista is if you look at Windows ME, which was Windows 98, so it was still built on the DOS kernel, not the NT kernel. And it worked worse than Windows 98. And there was no reason for them to make ME. Absolutely no reason. Because they had Windows 2000 in development, but they realized they weren't going to have something out and ready by the time the year 2000 came out. So they're like, we'll release Windows 98 as as Windows Millennium Edition. It'll be great. And instead I don't even know what the hell they did. It was just... I've only used Windows ME once.
I think I may have
know
used it
one
on the school
person that
computer
had it.
back in 2008
Right.
somewhere.
I know one person that had it, and it didn't work. I don't know how you make Windows 98 worse, but they did.
3.1 is probably better than 98.
Well, okay, so 98 wasn't bad. 98 second edition was really, really good.
Yeah, I mean...
Windows 95, okay. Windows NT, which came out between the two of them, was really, really, really good. But it also had some weird quirks that nobody liked, so it didn't work. But like Windows 2000 was great. Just Millennium Edition is like the black sheep of the family. People hate Millennium Edition worse than they hate Vista.
Right. Well, at least Vista didn't take worse than it.
Oh, Millennium Edition was so bad they refunded it and gave people upgrades.
Wow.
Like, Millennium Edition was so bad, Microsoft apologized.
I bet you won't have
They're
that
like-
happen.
We're so sorry we released Millennium Edition.
They should say sorry for not telling you about the telemetry data they're collecting on the 10. Because you should expect. Anything free isn't really free. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, but we were talking about that earlier. Like, the upgrade was a brilliant idea on their part.
Oh, yeah.
For, like, getting rid of all that legacy code from way back in 95.
Yeah. Because 20% of the market still uses XP.
Just...
Anyway, moving on.
I'll
Intel.
double check that real quick.
Wait.
I'm just making another tab. Calm down.
Let's edit all this out. Do.
Oh, XP is only 11% now. This is up, by the way.
Other?
Mm-hmm. But look at Windows 8. Notice Windows Vista's not even listed.
Well.
But if you look down there, Linux is 1.78% of the market share. And Vista's behind Linux. That's so good.
Anyway, moving on. Move along. Move along.
Yeah.
Get that. It's not what I mean, but it checks out. Intel is pretty much done with their TikTok and just went to architecture optimization. So, for instance, after Skylake, they're going to just be more power friendly and just slightly less performance than your Skylakes, which is alright if you're a desktop or laptop user. Great. All the whole thing with P states and controlled on the CPU level and all
Well,
that.
the other thing is if the processor is good with power, it can overclock better.
Oh yeah.
So by making them more energy friendly and more power friendly, you can then suit that up later on.
You want to talk VR?
Sure.
Because Valve released dynamic image quality. So Valve did their test on Steam that you can take to see how many people are ready for VR. It's like 11% of their. You have to factor in like maybe junk PCs, things that just have Steam on them. But
Well, the other thing is a lot of those things that can test it are also Steam machines.
yes,
Like a lot of Steam machines are not ready for it.
but those Steam machines haven't gotten big update. I really wanted Steam machines to really become mainstream. I mean, I haven't heard any.
Well, you can go and download Steam OS right now.
No, yeah.
For free.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a Debian-based Linux distribution, no problem. However, most people don't have a computer just sitting around that they want to turn into one of these things. Because it's also my desktop.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's Debian, so you can then, tell it to stop launching Steam in full screen mode as soon as it launches, or as soon as it boots up, and be like, yo, I'll just use this as a regular Linux desktop. In that case, why don't you just make a Linux desktop?
Because you can just install Steam on
Right.
Linux.
So, it's for people that really like consoles, but also like computer games. And that's such a weird demographic to go after.
Well, I mean,
Like, the desktop in the living room has Steam on it. And you can put a controller onto that computer. But it's also a computer with all of the other things that Steam OS doesn't install by default.
I think what they want to do is build they have a $500 solution. Sure, it's a bit older, but hell, I guess like a 480 can beat any console. I guess you can't the
Right, it's the first time that you can build a console yourself with the hardware you've selected, and it will run games. Where, like, your Xbox Ones and your PlayStation 4s, the hardware is selected for you, and that's it. You don't get to do anything with it other than put games in it and play it. So in that case, it's the first time that people have open sourced the console idea, which is exciting. Open sourcing ideas just to see what happens is always a good idea.
Oh yeah, I mean, it can't hurt.
Right, but at the same time, the same people that enjoy open source projects and doing these kind of things also just use their computers for these things.
Well, you have to think that companies might take this and release it as the Steam a pre-built Steam machine for
Right,
competitive
and they do
players.
that. You can get a lot of pre-built Steam machines. I know Alienware and Asus are both into the game already to build tiny $500 Steam machine console things.
Do better than a console.
Right, the hardware is definitely better.
Which is funny, because you think Apple is a generation behind. Consoles are like 5 or 7.
But a lot of the time,
Just-
some the hardware in consoles are specific to that.
Oh yeah.
Like, they don't exist outside of it. Like, the GameCube has an ATX graphics card in it that was released for nothing but the GameCube. And it runs very efficient with the GameCube in mind.
Well, I mean, that's why Sony's PlayStation there was able to make the claims of the PlayStation VR, of how you can get your 60 frames per second, which it should be 90 frames, but so efficiently on such old hardware is because, well, you can write code specifically for this.
Right, but then if you look at how the Nintendo approach of things is you take older hardware, just like slightly older hardware to keep your pricing down, but it's good enough to run games still.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Nintendo consoles tend to be cheaper than the other consoles. They did this with the GameCube and the Wii and the Wii U, is they take the console, or they take hardware that was high-end one console generation ago. Make sure that it runs super efficient and rebrand it. So, like, the Wii U has hardware similar to the original Xbox 360.
Mm-hmm.
And it can run things decent like the Xbox 360 could, but there's also a few more added bells and whistles to make it slightly more powerful than the original Xbox 360. And then they also made the ridiculous controller, which
Yeah.
I absolutely love.
Doesn't that was the first one of the second or third controllers that featured a magnet-driven or an analog-driven throttle stick? So it's not like it's a 2-click trigger. It was like a.
The shoulder buttons on the GameCube controller are analog.
Because I knew
And the other console controller that's got a really neat, horribly underutilized, very odd feature is that the buttons on a PlayStation 2 and up controller can sense how hard you press them.
Because I know from watching other tech shows that there have been PC keyboard releases with keys with those functionalities.
Right.
And I'm like, because you play any like Grand Theft Auto, like you have to like keep tapping to make the turn. Like if you could just do.
Right. So like the Xbox, or not the Xbox, the PlayStation 2 and 3 and 4 controllers, understanding how hard you're pressing the buttons, nobody uses that.
I don't know why.
Like it's built into the hardware spec features. You can use it if you want to, but then yeah, it's like one of those features that they have that you can use that you don't, because you don't know how to use it.
I would think it would be great for like normal swing kill and then aggressive hard swing kill.
Right, and you
Something
could
like
effectively turn your 4 buttons into 8 buttons if you hit them very hard. And that would be neat and everything, but a lot of people that play games, you would implementing that and the teaching the player how to use that it is different and difficult, and most people don't want to spend the time.
Maybe
Well, like,
press for normal swing, press really hard for hard swing.
right. So the other thing is, like, the PlayStation 3 and the Wii U controller and the Wii controller all have the ability to, like, turn, and that's registered. It's neat. Of course, the Wii U controller, you can turn it sideways, and the one Ninja Star one, and just swipe the screen to throw Ninja Stars, while also pointing at the same time. It's very neat. I like it.
Do you think the Kinects ever could have been good? I mean, we know motion capture when you're making a movie or whatever. I mean, it's loosely based off of that stuff.
I've used the Kinect. I've played the Dance Central games, which are hilariously fun. Absolutely loved the Just Dance series. Yeah. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, you get up and do dance moves. Very fun. They had that Star Wars cash-in game that had one level that was that game, but two horribly redone songs for Star Wars flair. It works. You just have to have not an apartment living room. You need to play it would be like college students, and college students' living rooms are not that big. But the voice command was okay. The voice command worked okay. And that was what you had it for. So you could sit on your couch and shout at your television to start the next episode of whatever's on Netflix.
I know the, not the Oculus Rift, but the competitor VR, what was that, the Vive?
I don't know. There's a lot of them now.
Well, using, being able to map out your rooms that don't hit walls. So in the virtual reality, there are virtual barriers, so that...
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't want to, like, run into a TV, but they use cameras on poles, just like you would see in a movie production. I mean, obviously probably not as high quality, but...
I mean, the whole thing with the Oculus Rift is, like, moving the Oculus Rift changes your camera position. So basically, you do the keyboard mouse thing, except the mouse now is your face.
No, they have hand controllers mostly. Well, yeah, the mouse is like your face, but, you know...
Right, so you can steer yourself with the controller, and you look around for the camera. That's neat.
Personally, I'd like to see...
You have to have a display port attached to it, you have to have enough power to it, and your graphics card has to be able to do the frames per second correctly so you don't get horribly nauseous. And that last one is the problem that they ran into.
Personally, I'd like to see a game with more, with successful procedural animations that can be varied, as well as a motion capture suit. Now, I know in the movies they have to like take the time to put on all these little dots and face dots, but could you imagine if you could commercialize that to a consumer grade level, where even if it's just a harness that has the dots in the right position, where you could have a VR experience, but...
The PlayStation Move did that. So the PlayStation version of the Kinect and the Wii thing was you took the PlayStation Eye, which was its webcam, and you took the ball with the blue light on it. And the ball with the blue light is actually a motion capture ball. And that's how it did it.
Yeah, but I meant like, well, yeah, but if you wanted something with more accuracy, like you could literally, you know, interact with, I mean, right now, like Skyrim or whatever, or call it whatever the game is, you have to click a button, like use, and like, you know, you pick up and could you imagine to the point when our programming of our games could get to the point where you have some sort of VR. Hopefully in the future there'll be different than a normal pair of glasses. But like you see something like you want to pick it up and you can actually pick it up, or maybe you could have, you know, the holodeck from the Enterprise is probably the ultimate.
Right. The other thing is this required for immersion? Like, does all of that add more to the game than was there before?
I don't know, probably. I still think the ultimate experience we can do more practically is AR. where you combine maybe an abandoned warehouse or complex, and you scan that all in, and then you have AR implementing.
that already.
Yeah, I know, but that's I think where that will be commercialized to the consumer level before more space age and holodeck games.
Cell phone based AR games, there's a lot of them, and they are very successful. There's the Pokemon one coming out.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about that.
When Google Glasses can be perfected to the point when they look like a normal you could have prescription glasses with AR in them that,
Right. But at the same time, so in order for that to be practical, like, at first it's just going to be like the Apple Watch or the Android Watch, but also on your glasses.
Right.
As the screen display, and that exists.
Right.
The thing is, at a certain point, like, these new technologies are there, and, like, we have access to, like, Oculus Rifts and whatever. But the thing is, they didn't create as much of a stir as they need to get people like, I need one of these or I cannot function. Like, smartphones
Facebook
did that. Well, Facebook, most of the Facebook was
computers
clever marketing, but yeah.
Computers, Facebook,
like
cell
smartphones,
phone manufacturers, yeah.
Smartphones themselves have hit the point where everybody has a smartphone because you need one.
I don't think if you're a general employee of anything that's in white collar, I don't think you could.
Well, not only that, but like, if you work at the Home Depot, there's a Home Depot app that the employees can get onto their phones to help them find merchandise within the store to help customers. Like, there's a point where if you have one of these and you work for this company blank, you can get this app on your phone to help you as an employee.
And I can't even get Android Pay to accept my bank. It says card not accepted.
Right. But, like, the thing is, at a certain point, like, if you just expect your employees to have, like, a cell phone, you can then base part of your business around them having this thing on their phone and using it to help your customer base.
Yeah.
Not only that, but, like, Square is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Small business,
Right. And the thing is, if you're like, my employees have smartphones, I will have them put Square on there so that they can go to a table and just have people pay in front of them and leave. If you're like a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good idea. Like, but nobody can go, oh, if I had an Oculus Rift, I can then lumber my way to somebody's table and stay them until they pay me. There's, like, cell phones have this neat thing where you can just integrate them, or you can put them into a lot of different scenarios and they all turn out useful every time, where, like, virtual reality headsets don't really do that.
AR, definitely.
Like, the best thing people can come up with is video games.
AR technology will do it before VR technology does. And I'll tell you why. You're driving, you can't take your eyes off the road, but you don't even like looking down at your cell phone, maybe super congested, not traffic, but maybe it's moving you on the freeway, but you can't look down because you're afraid you're going to slam. If you could have the GPS directions in front of you, if you could say, keep an eye out for a bathroom, and instead of having to look down at your phone to see if there's a bathroom or a sign, you'd have all the little bathrooms.
First,
yeah,
you can. They have the thing that you...
But it's not like... I don't see it.
They have the thing that projects onto your windshield.
Yeah, but it's not like it's, like, known. Like, I knew they had it, but it didn't come to my forefront. Not like if you said something about a cell phone, I would think of it right away.
Right, the thing is, again, cell phones have these functions, but the Oculus Rifts... Okay, so somebody's like, you can use it for surgery, but we already had that. Like, there was already surgeons that were able to perform surgeries in countries that weren't currently in using monitors already. Like, that's something that has happened more than once.
I mean,
But these...
AR just needs to get commercialized before VR can really take off outside of video games. Because there needs to be a transitional step. You can't just go full on VR. I mean,
like again, the AR games are doing very well. AR has been implemented several times and it works, but just the packaging, all of it just doesn't work well.
Well, they need to work on it. That's why they need to really work on consumerizing it.
Right, but you
That's
have to
important.
remember, before people had smartphones, they had PDAs. Before PDAs, it was beepers. There was always technology that assisted in a specific way, and then the next step after that.
Anyway, but speaking of legacy hardware like BlackBerry, Facebook discontinues its support of it, and I had no idea Blackberries were still a thing.
I thought
mean,
RIM died. Are you serious? There's still Blackberries?
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Who has a Blackberry?
Old people?
I don't think that's true anymore.
I mean, BlackBerry has always been the business phone.
Kind of.
Not
I mean, they were
anymore. I mean,
Okay,
they
so
were.
like, BlackBerry came out before the iPhone,
Right.
and it was king for a good year and a half. And then Apple was like, you know what, we could probably make a better BlackBerry. And then they did. The iPhone, much better than BlackBerry. And then Google's like, I want in on this. And then the Android happens. And then the Android and the iPhone are competing with each other, and the BlackBerry blinked, turned around 3 times, and realized it had competition that was just way better than it, and it had no idea how to keep up with that.
Apparently it did, somehow.
I think it's just a case of people bought a BlackBerry and they just really didn't want to get rid of it.
Well, it's called consumer defend, or purchase defend something. There's a word where you defend something because you spent money on it, and,
Right.
and you just can't deal.
You just refuse to upgrade or get rid of it in any capacity because you spent money on that, and you have to squeeze every penny out of your purchase, or you feel like you failed somewhere along the line.
It's like that little model train set that you spent so much time expanding and building, and
Like, for goodness sakes, the place I work at has a point of sale system that was out of date the year they bought it. But they bought it at a discounted price, and they get all the support for it that they keep paying for, that despite the fact that there's like 1 billion better solutions that cost less than what they paid for it, they refuse to upgrade because they got it on a coupon.
things on the discount aren't always as good unless it's refurbished, and it's guaranteed to work. Someone else found the bugs, and now you don't have to.
Right, but the one point of sale system has, like, the company that originally released it when they bought it has been bought out twice. Like, empires have risen and fallen by the time that they were like, man, we should keep using this.
So Apple executive says people using 5-year-old PCs is sad. Well, my computer was built in 2011, and I built it then, and I mean,
But you've been replacing parts of it.
I bet the original price would have still beaten Apple. It was $600 when I first built it. But okay, first of all, it's purely to try to get more people over to Apple.
Well, part of it is they realized people could not afford to buy a new iPhone every year, or a new MacBook, or whatever, so they're trying to guilt people into buying more computers. Like, oh man, you're using this, you're so sad. It's a very bad ploy by a very bad person.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Oh yeah, there's also the whole, classism bit
Oh
of it.
yeah.
Like,
Elitism.
you can afford a new computer? Like, no, I can't afford a new computer. I'm not a fucking executive.
When will this elitism stop? How much time have we done? Done like
47 minutes? Yeah, I think that's good.
Well,
Unless there was another topic you wanted.
no, I mean, paid mods mostly. Could you imagine if Microsoft did paid mods for like access to different parts of the
Well,
system?
So some of this is like, it didn't work. Like, if you look at YouTube Red, like, supposed to be YouTube's paid for part of their website.
I know a lot of people signed up for it.
Yeah. Have you noticed that a lot of it's free still?
I haven't encountered any
Right,
restrictions
so-
yet.
Exactly. The point is, there was such a backlash, and people were just so furious over it. They were like, you know what, this was the worst idea we've ever had. And they just haven't been able to bring themselves to charge people to watch YouTube. So, it was one of those things where they made a big hullabaloo, changed their minds, and then never told anyone. You just completely about face and don't talk to anybody while you run towards the exit.
Yes.
Like, you get so upset because somebody gave you a bill that was rung out wrong that when you realize everything was right, you just pay the bill and run towards the door and don't make eye contact.
You know, I don't know. I mean, the idea because they really didn't have YouTube must be a money sink.
Well, right. So, if you look at Tumblr, for example,
Right.
Yahoo bought Tumblr for an insane amount of money. Because they're like, it's popular. It must be making money. But it's not.
It's probably just
They realized they are not making their money back anytime soon. So they've been trying to figure out how to make their money back. And if you're on Tumblr, you'll realize that there's like sponsored ads at the top.
Oh, yeah.
And like sponsored blogs in the middle. Like, people are paying money to get their blog put there so you click and follow it. Like, they're trying to do what Facebook did with Facebook, but without all of the just overtness that Facebook uses.
They don't want to drive away their.
They don't want to make it look like they're as desperate as Facebook is.
Because appearances keep up appearances, people.
Right. So, like, YouTube Red was supposed to do that. They realized, like, they're making a lot of ad revenue, but they could try to squeeze a few more pennies out of people by locking some of it behind a paywall. And
It's not gonna work.
they're basically trying to do what Hulu did. But Hulu's dumb. Don't ever do what Hulu does.
Hulu is owned by the big 6, 7, or however many there are. 5, 6, 7.
Just,
you don't
hey,
know.
you want to pay for Hulu? Alright, here's a few more shows. You still have to watch commercials. Like, what do you mean I still have to... What's the point of giving you money to watch like 6 more shows? I don't think so.
I think Netflix already hit. Do you think Netflix hit market saturation?
Probably not. Well, so here's the other
If
thing.
not, it's pretty close. I mean,
Like, it doesn't matter if Netflix hits market saturation. They are a pay-per-month service. So hitting market saturation is a good thing. That means you now have a larger, steadier income.
you don't have to get ads.
Right. Give us $7 a month. That's affordable.
I am upset.
You don't have to pay for ads. Sure, your shows rotate on a regular basis, but that means there's always something new to watch. Like, they are able to take all their negatives and turn them into positives and still get your $7 a month.
I am still upset that many shows have been removed from the inventory due to
Right.
like disagreements between.
But whenever they lose shows, they always are sure to go and put more shows back on. So there's always the same amount of shows no matter what. But the thing is, like, they're so successful now, they can go and be like, we're going to make this show, and the only way to watch it is to give us $7 a month. That's brilliant, because now not only are there things exclusive to your platform, but now you incentivize doing it more than just what was already there.
Oh yeah, like House of Cards.
House of Cards, Orange is the New Black. Yeah. I hear there was a season of Arrested Development. Wasn't good. There's Fuller House. Like, they hit the point where they're like, okay, in order to get more people on here, we're going to give them original content. But then we're also going to ask them what shows they want us to bring back. So in order to bring back these shows, they have to give us money to show that they support us, and therefore support their show, and it just keeps printing money.
Now, normally I would be really
upset. It prints money.
Normally I would be upset with this business model, but they actually deliver.
Right. And that's the other thing. As far as companies go, Netflix is not bad. They're like, we understand people love binge watching shit. And you want to put on your pajamas, snuggle under a blanket, and binge watch a show for 72 hours. We're not judging.
You would expect something like this from Time Warner Cable or Comcast to be like, $75.
Right. So Time Warner and Comcast and all these other companies are like, so people pay you money to watch shows? Like individually? Okay, let's do these pay-per-view things. Except they're more expensive and it's not a lot of selection. And like one pay-per-view channel is like literally the same movie all day long, but in order to watch it at least once you have to pay us money. Where Netflix is like $6, $7 a month. Just binge watch whatever shows you want this weekend. Like, we're not judging. We will periodically ask if you're still watching the show,
It brings into question the whole...
Like, I feel they should italicize that question. Are you still watching House of Cards?
No, I can only, watch something once. I remember it too much to ever go back. I had the problem with books. I'll go back and be like, oh, I don't even know what happens, and, all this detail. This is boring. I gotta go. I consume experiences, and then once I had them, it's
But the thing is, Netflix continues to give you new things to experience.
Oh, yeah.
And people's Netflix queues, every friend I've seen, I've just gone through their Netflix queue, and thank goodness Netflix, capped that out eventually, because people just keep adding to it without sitting down and trying to clear it out. It's so good. Netflix figured it out. They figured out how to print money.
Well, that's our show. Thank you for sticking to the end. If you're still here, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. But if you didn't like it, do what you have to do. Stay around for the next episode next week, hopefully. Sorry we haven't had such a
hiatuses happened.
reliability, or not liability, reliability, consistency. Anyway, if it's all planned, this video will be out Sunday in the morning, probably. I probably need to change that.
It'll be released when it is.
It's released when it's
and
released.
when it is available, watch it, and that'd be sweet.
You want to plug any of your videos? I've never really asked you if you want to plug any of your social media.
Oh, I'm good for now.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
See you next time. Same bad time, same bad place.